Legends about the place suggested that it had been used by some of the Egyptian priesthoods as an initiatory chamber, presumably where people were taught to overcome whatever fears it caused. "Okay," he said, testing his flashlight. Then again, "Okay." Ahmad Mahfouz chuckled. "Okay." "You bastard, you go down." Ahmad laughed aloud. "It's not my machine that's driving everybody crazy." Ahmad was not only one of the finest archaeologists in Egypt, he had an excellent mind for technology, so he understood why it was most unlikely that mass average decay dating was wrong. It was, in fact, the holy grail of dating techniques. It could tell when stone was last worked, as long as the stone had not been exposed to air. Thus, the need to go deep into structures like this and drill into joined stones in order to get samples. In Peru, where the Incas had fitted their stones with a jeweler's precision, this had been easy. In the Pyramid and the Osirian, it had entailed careful drilling using sonar guidance. Here also, so he was loaded with equipment. The descending passage was narrow, it was pitch black, and madness stalked the people who went down. "Radio check," he said as soon as he was 10 steps in. "We don't need it yet, Martin. I'm right here." "I'm sorry, Ahmad. Look, if I get out of here alive, you're buying." "It's been there for thousands of years, far longer than anybody thought, according to you. So why would it pick today to collapse?" Feeling like an idiot, Martin headed deeper. Soon, a silence enveloped him that was unlike anything he had ever known, and he had been in some very quiet holes in the ground. What was different about this silence was that it felt, he thought, aggressive, like it knew you were there and had been waiting, and now it wanted you. Like it knew. But of course, that was all in his mind. There was no malign presence here, or anywhere else for that matter. No ghosts, no gods. This was simply what happens when you descend a narrow tunnel beneath 6 million tons of stone. One thing the ancient Egyptians had not been were fools. They had understood this effect, which might be why the pit was here. The conventional wisdom was that it was an old tomb, but that wasn't at all clear. Half of it was an odd, roughly constructed platform with rocky knobs on it. Certainly no place for a sarcophagus, and the rest of the room was just as strange, being dominated by a diagonal cut in the floor about 6 feet deep. It was, in fact, in the walls of this pit that Martin hoped to find the fitted masonry that was crucial to his success. He reached the chamber itself. He was now 80 feet beneath the pyramid's foundation. The air was thick and cool, clammy even. His multi-gas detector was telling him that although carbon dioxide levels were high, he was basically safe. He carried an emergency respirator with an hour's supply of oxygen, more than enough to enable him to withdraw if he used up all the air in the confined space, or, if the worst were to happen, to suffocate more slowly. "I've arrived," he said into his radio. There was a silence. A long silence. "Mahmud." "Oh, sorry, Effendi. I was taking my lazy tea." "I'm scared down here, man." "And I know it, and I'm trying to make some fun for you." He was a great guy and a fabulous scientist. But there was a cultural gulf between a Muslim who had grown up when this was still Turkish territory and now had to deal with the Brits. "Remember, I'm an American," he said. This was not the time for practical jokes with the radio. He took a deep breath, then another. Then he opened his equipment bag and pulled out the radar. It could penetrate limestone to a depth of 10 feet and return detailed imagery of what was there. It could, in other words, locate the joins and masonry construction. His plan was to send his tiny drill in about 1/8 of an inch behind a join, then collect stone right